all. Richie Matthews here. This is module 1 of my Creative Airbnb mini course. And so I'm going to share with you guys the 4-step framework that I put together over thousands of reservations since we started our first rental arbitrage in February of 2020. It took about a year, but in March of 2021, from Feb 2020 till March of 2021, 13 months, I finally put together a team, a process, a system, implemented tools and all that. And then I slowly, but not immediately, I slowly stepped away from the day-to-day operations. By August of 2021, so 6 months after I implemented the team and system and all that, I got to step away from all of it. And so I'm here to kind of show you my 4-step framework. But step 1 is your market. So let me explain my strategy firstly. So I prefer to host remotely. This is an online business. 90% of what goes on in the day-to-day operations of a short-term rental business is communication. And so our team communicates with our housekeeper, turnovers, inspections. We're responding to inquiries 24/7. Forget if an inquiry comes in, we handle that within 6 minutes. And then, of course, we're managing our guests. All of that is communication. If we actually need someone to be on site, that's typically our housekeepers. So the other 10 or maybe 15% of the time, they're cleaning. And so when they have to go to the property, they're swinging by the storage unit, getting supplies. They're actually in the unit doing inventory, inspections, taking photos before they leave. So that's like 95% of the job. And then the off chance that something breaks in the unit, well, guess what? If it's an appliance or something that has to do with the building, that's the apartment building. They're the owners. So we put a ticket in, they fix it. If something of ours breaks, or if we have to, fix a ding in the wall or paint or something like that, if the housekeeper can't do the maintenance, and they do a lot of it, if they can't, then yeah, we send someone. But like I said, this is a remote business. Once you get your unit set up, there's really no need for you to be at that property. And I would even suggest, and I'm going to urgently recommend, that you don't even do the setup, and I'll show you how. So doing this remotely. Now, if you live near an amazing market, and we'll figure that out during this module, then great. Then there's an added benefit. It's not a logistical benefit. It is a knowledge benefit. You knowing your market. When I say local, I mean 45 miles. Beyond that, you really don't know as much, right? But you do know within your own area certain things that are going on. And even though we have a market research tool, there are some benefits of your knowledge. So sure, if you do live near a firecracker market, we'll try that first. If you don't, like most people, 90% of them don't live right near a great market, then we can take off the gloves and find the very best markets in the country using AirDNA, my tool. So that's step 2. So local versus remote. What do you do? So I'm here to tell you, yes, you can do this remote. I have students in Alaska doing it, in Florida, in Canada doing it, in San Antonio, and from different coasts doing it in the other coasts and in the middle. So I've got them everywhere. We even got students in Israel and Costa Rica and all kinds of places, Hawaii, doing that here in the mainland US. So there's that. So second step in this is, once you consider you want to do this locally, or you perhaps want to do this remotely, the second consideration is the market I'm considering, is it legal? Is there an ordinance? Most short-term rental laws are typically governed by a city. In some cases, it's the county. One comes to mind in my area, San Bernardino, and I think Riverside County and some other counties, they oversee and they govern this. But typically it's the city. So you're going to have to look up to find out what the code is and to see if there was an ordinance in place. And so not only are you going to check to see if it's legal, but you want to make sure that the conditions of the ordinance, and all laws have conditions, you want to make sure the conditions are appropriate, that they're okay with you. Not that it's just legal, but what if the cost is really expensive? What if it takes 60 days turnaround? We're not in escrow. We didn't purchase our property, so we're leasing them. We're going to get right to market. So we want to make sure that we're able to get our short-term rental ordinance, or sorry, our permit right away. So that's another consideration, the cost. And what if there's other conditions? What if they cap it? You're only allowed 2. Well, guess what? That's a consideration, right? So we're going to check that out. I'll show you in a moment here on a screen share how we figure that out. And then the other big consideration is that we only operate in markets that have work travel, business travel, and leisure travel, vacation travel. Everyone's looking at vacation travel, right? But that's not the market anymore. So with the single family home model, if you're in an area where there's tons of business travel, you're really not going to see that travel. Single family homes are for families on vacation. That's who rents single family homes on Airbnb. Sure, occasionally there's a bunch of nurses that get together and do that, or a convention or something like that. It's few and far between. You can't really count on it. But the single family home model isn't meant for arbitrage. It isn't meant for subleasing. So that's why if you have a 2-bedroom apartment or a 1-bedroom apartment, you can have it near a convention center. You can get all kinds of business travel. If the economy that you're in has tons of different industries, you can count on year-round travel. So that's one, that's business travel. Then you have work travel. Work travel are traveling nurses, engineers, civilian engineers work on government complexes all over the country. It's a gigantic business. It was our bread and butter during COVID. So traveling nurses, government engineers, you get teachers. If you're near a university, you get teachers on sabbatical. You get all kinds of people staying for midterm rental reasons. We even get insurance relocation people. Somebody has a flood or a fire, they stay with us while their house is being fixed. So we get gigs with the insurance companies, all kinds. So that's the work travel. Then you have leisure travel. Leisure travel pays well. You can't ignore it. And 2-bedroom apartment, if you're near SeaWorld or one of these places, you can count on year-round travel with that. So we depend on leisure travel that has 4 seasons of 4 of travel in a market. We're looking for business travel and we're looking for work travel. So in a nutshell, that's my market strategy. So we're looking for apartments. Typically 1 or 2-bedroom apartments is a sweet spot. I'm no longer recommending doing studios. I don't really like 3 bedrooms. So 1 or 2-bedroom apartments, typically 2 bedrooms. We're looking in markets that have work travel, business travel, leisure travel. You don't have to do this near you. You can do this remotely. And I explained before why I prefer a house versus an apartment. Now, my market position. So the mass market is mid-scale to upscale. I'm not interested in economy, definitely not interested in budget, and I'm not interested in luxury. Luxury is a great market if you own the property, but how many apartments are really luxury? I mean, they are luxury against each other, but you're not going to have a luxury apartment, no matter how well you design it, even if it's in a killer building versus a luxury condo or one of these others. So who knows? Maybe someone could figure that out. Maybe there are some markets where you can do that. I haven't figured it out. So I focus on the mass market, which is mid-scale, upscale, 2-bedroom apartments in businesses that have work, business, and leisure travel. And I'd prefer in legal markets doing this remotely. That's my formula. So you got in 20 minutes my exact formula and how I was able to scale. Now I learned the hard way. I was focused on condos for a while and single family homes, and I was doing a bunch of economy and studios. I tried a few luxury, or what I thought was luxury. At the end of the day, the luxuries didn't make as much money proportional to their increased rent. So here is one of the most important strategies of all, one of the tactics of all in this strategy. Find markets where the median rent in the given market is at least half of what you're going to make on Airbnb. So I'll get into now using my cash flow analysis on AirDNA, and I use AirDNA, love it, and I use Rentometer hot pads. I've got these things on almost all the time. So I'm going to do a screen share right now with you all and show you. Okie doke. So here is AirDNA. So all I'm doing, let's pick on a market. So I'm going to pick on, where am I going to pick? I'm going to pick on Austin. Let's do Austin. Okay, Austin, Texas. I'm going to go over here to AirDNA, Austin, Texas. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do when I want to see what the performance of a certain apartment is, I'm even looking at a 1 or 2 bedroom. So first I'm going to go on here. I'm going to pick entire place, apartment, and I'm going to go right to a 2-bedroom. I'm going to do a 2-2. Some older markets you have to do a 2-1, but most new buildings and so forth, relatively new, you can go, and I go up to 6 people, 4 adults, 2 kids, and then hit apply. And then I'm also going to do on performance, mid-scale, upscale. Remember what I said before? Don't mess around with budget or economy or luxury. Or whack out your prices. You want to get the most accurate prices on what hosts are doing in the Austin market. Now, here's one of the things I like to do. I like AirDNA doing some of the heavy lifting for me. So look at this. Austin has 75 submarkets. So I'm not going to just get the data from Austin. That's too much data. There's going to be too many variables, right? So go right to submarkets. Look at the market score up here. It's going to give a market score based on occupancy, revenue, and daily rate. So now it's telling us Rainey Street has a 97 score. So I'm going to click on Rainey Street. And now this is the legwork. This is the work you have to do on AirDNA to pick the very best markets in a certain market. This is what you have to do. But this is the quickest way to do it. The next step you're going to go over to is revenue. Go to revenue. And this is going to give you the gross monthly revenue other 2-bedroom, 2-bath, mid-tiered upscale apartments are making in the Rainey Street district. Does that sound accurate or pinpoint enough? It does, doesn't it? The next thing I'm going to do is go back 2 years. Now, 1 year is okay. 2 years is better. 3 years is not good because now you're messing around in COVID times and there was wacky travel behavior, right? Thanks to the government. So here we are in a 2-year, month to month. There's 24 data points on this. And so you can look back and you're like, okay, December is, I would have made $5,100 if I was the average host in this market. So then the next thing you're going to do is export this data, right? Because you want to get the most accurate. I mean, you can eyeball this and you can say, what does this look like to you? This looks like around $6,000. I'd say probably $5,500. But then the next thing you would do is download this data into a spreadsheet. We open the spreadsheet up. And then what you're going to do is you're going to total it in your spreadsheet. And then you're going to divide that number by how many data points there are. I think AirDNA gives us 25 months instead of 24. And so then what you're going to do is we're going to add that up. 133,877 divided by 25 months. And you're going to get 5355. 5355. So 5355, that's pretty close to what I said, right? That's the gross monthly revenue that hosts in this market are making month in and month out, right? I mean, pretty accurate. Those are 25 data points. And, we've had a lot of trials and tribulations in these markets. So that's 5355. You're like, okay, that's what I'm going to make. But how do I know if I'm going to cash flow? Well, guess what? The next thing we're going to do is we need to make, and how am I going to profit on this? So what I do is I divide that by 2. That means I need to find an apartment under $2,700. $2,678 is what I need to find an apartment rent. I need to find it south of $2,678. I need to find an apartment because then $2,678 is going to rent, and about 20% more is your overheads, your utilities, and whatever software you're using in that per unit. So that's going to be, and that's what ours is. It's 20% of gross revenue minus the rent. That leaves me typically with $1,500 per 2-bedroom. No less than that. In another module from now, I'll show you how we run the numbers on the deal. Right now, you're only running numbers on the market. You never run the numbers on a deal. You don't have a deal. No one has said yes to you, but people do this all the time. And that's what they call analysis paralysis. You don't need to do it. Right now, our objective is to find a good cash flowing legal market. So 2677. So the next thing we're going to do is go up to Rainey Street. Now, I like zip codes because I use Rentometer. Rentometer is this tool. It gives us the median rent of a given market in wherever we are. So we're going to go to Texas, Austin, and hopefully it's going to pull up Rainey Street. Let's see what it does here. There we go. There's Rainey Street District, 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Okay, so because this only goes up to 1.5. Unfortunately, I don't know why they don't go up to 2. Make sure that's turned on apartment or condo. You only want to go back 3 months. I wish this could go back to 1 month because if a market is in flux, if rents are going up, or down, then this number could be inaccurate. And this is lagging data. So I don't like lagging data, but this is the best we can do. 3 months. Now we hit analyze, and it's telling us that the median rent in this market is $29.90. So nope, that's a little high, isn't it? So that's a little high. Now here's a consideration. Even though that's high, so double that is almost $3,000, and our rent is going to be $2,700. What I like to do, keep in mind, this is the median number right here, right? This is the median number. So there's going to be plenty of inventory under 2678. There'll be plenty of that. Trust me, especially in a densely populated market like Rainey Street in Austin. So I would actually put this in a sort of okay. I prefer to be right under 2678. I prefer with the median rent to be 2,500 or lower. Today, I found with a student a market that 3x rent in a great market. And that wasn't like that a year ago. So the markets are really, you have to check this because rents are dropping down. So that's my formula. This will tell you, this 2-to-1 cash flow analysis formula will tell you markets that are in flux, where rents are dropping or soft, and the short-term rental demand is strong, or midterm rental demand is strong. And the reason why that's so important is for the next step for acquisitions, because then we're going to go to a landlord that has a ton of vacancy and give them our proposal. Say, hey, we're going to give you a bunch, we're going to take a bunch of units from you. Here's our business model. Will you allow us? And they're more apt to allow us when they have some pain, when they need some occupancy in their building. So this quick little way of doing this, 2-to-1, is the way to do this. I don't know if anyone's talking about that. Most people are just looking at demand, and typically demand comes with very, very expensive rents. That's what was happening a couple of years ago. Rents were just going sky high in 2022. And I was running my deals through this, and I wasn't getting 2-to-1. So I stayed put. I just build cash reserves, and I did not scale in 2022. Last year, 2023, is when we started scaling again, because then rents started dropping back down. Just like any market, you have to keep your eye on it. And this is the quick way I do that. So that's all you have to do. This is a 2-bedroom. The way I would do, just so you have this, I'd go over here, merge this, go over here, merge this, go 4 columns out and merge this and put, Rainy Street. There you go. I don't even know if I spelled that right. And then the next thing I would do is go over here, merge these as, 2-bedroom. And then I would do the same thing over here. You have to do this legwork. And this is the quickest way of doing it. Quickest way of doing it. I go 1-bedroom and I check everything. Occasionally, not always, but occasionally we find 1-bedrooms that do better than 2-bedrooms. If that's the case, pounce on that, because then you can get in cheaper. There's a whole bunch of benefits. Your cash on cash returns better. And typically markets that do better as a 1-bedroom are near hospitals or in work markets. And so that's all I do. So I build this out. I find out what the median rent is in a given market. I make sure that I'm able to see historical data over, a couple of years that says that I'm going to 2x. Now, there's some nuances to this about your quality. Keep in mind, we're looking at average hosts. You won't be average. And I'll explain this in step 3 of my formula. We've never not been average in all of our markets. My properties, every time I get on Airbnb, all my properties pop up 1, 2, and 3, and 4 in various markets, and we're competing against way nicer properties, condos, and things like that. We have like Class B apartments, and so for that reason, we beat our competition just because we do more. We go multi-platform. We have a VA answering phones. We have dynamic pricing, professional photos. And I'll explain to you how you can beat your competition. So why am I mentioning that here? Because we're not going to be average. So shouldn't we really be comparing ourselves to the top of the market? And my answer is yes, actually we do. Now, for my students, I go into how we look at the top of the market. And that allows us to look at this number most likely. And I know from experience that Rainy Street actually does better for us than that. This number is going to be more like $6,300. If that's the case, this 2678 is going to be, this 2990 is definitely going to cash flow. But even if you're being super conservative and you're looking at the average performer, the average host in this market, then you're going to do better. Here's a statistic. 50% of American hosts on Airbnb are using iPhone photos. Just one of the biggest, the biggest mistake you'll make. You'll get the fastest ROI in having a professional Airbnb deluxe photographer coming in and taking photos. The second thing is that 70% of hosts in the United States are only listed on as many as 2 platforms, typically Airbnb and Vrbo. So even if you go on booking.com and Expedia and all those, you'll make way more money. So those are just 2 ways that all of our students are crushing it in the markets they're in. So there's that. So that's all you have to do is get your spreadsheet, download it in, get historical data going back at least 2 years. You can go back a year. I think 2 years is more prudent, right? And then you look at the data itself, make sure there's not wild swings and so forth. And then you've come up with a cash flow analysis. I'm going to say this market's going to work because I know this market's going to work. And there you go. Now you have your cash flow analysis. I would go through the city of Austin. all those downtown markets, whatever AirDNA is telling me the greatest markets are. Let's go back and look at that again. And now I would go on here, look at these submarkets, and I would go to West Congress. I go to 78727. I'd go to these. I'd go to all three of these. Now, first you want to do is you want to make sure you look at occupancy though. So this market I probably wouldn't go to. With an occupancy like that, and an average daily rate that is, it's probably a single family home market. But anyway, I would pick these markets based on occupancy and revenue, and I would do this sheet. I'd make the sheet. I'd go out about 10 columns, color code them to the ones that are saying go, the ones that I want to say stop. And now my job is done. One step I would like to express to you that we do need to do, I'm going to do it with you right now. You go on Google, vacation, rental, permit, and then name your city. Look at all those cities. Austin. So then you short-term rental permit. Yeah, let's do that one. And then typically the cities, you can tell this is government websites. You don't want to go on one of these. A lot of people offer advice and they're like trying to get your traffic. So like this co-host, some software or something like that, they're trying to get your things and they're going to give you some advice. But why are you going to take advice from anybody? Don't take advice from anybody that's hearsay that you maybe know they're a host in a market. They say, oh, it's illegal or it's not doing well here. Do your own research. We find great markets all the time that people disparage, markets that people disparage, probably because they're not as good of a host. And so you don't want to listen to people. They may say it's illegal. What they mean is it's expensive or it's illegal for them because they're not, they can't, they're only doing this as an ADU or something like that. So you have to look yourself, and all it means is a quick search on Google. And then the next thing you're going to do is go right to the City of Austin's website. They're going to go on their website. And then so you just got to mess around on here. Like I said, it's a little bit more time consuming. Some sites are so good. I was recently on San Antonio's short-term rental city website. I emailed them and they gave me back an email right away saying, oh yeah, that address is fine. You can do it there. Some cities, even though if it's legal, have zones in it where you can't do it. So you just kind of have to jump on their website, make sure you pull up their actual STR law and make sure if they have a phone number on the site, that's a giant tell. If you play poker, you know what a tell is. So that's a tell. If a city's giving away their phone number, you know what cities do? You know what governments do when they get money, right? They spend it and they hire people. And so that's what these people did. Typically, you're going to call this number. You should call this right now. I'll call this and they're going to answer. Oh, it's a little bit late in Texas. But my point is that most of the time you call the DMV, you think you're going to get somebody? No. If you call a department flush with cash, then you're going to get somebody on the phone that wants to sit around and talk to you all day. And that's great for us, right? They're giving their email address. They're giving you the phone number. They're telling you when to call them. They're giving you all the information here. This tells me, and I know from experience, it is legal. There are some conditions in here. So you have to kind of look at the city ordinance itself and spend a few moments. But that's basically the search I do. I do a vacation rental or short-term rental permit and then name the city. Say permit, and then don't say is it legal, and then you now know this is a cash flowing market, at least the Rainy Street area is, and that it's legal there. That's step one. And then step two, I'm not going to get in the weeds too much on the qualitative analysis here. What I will say though is I go on Airbnb right before. Now this market cash flows, it says you're going to make money on it. That is lagging data. What I sometimes like to see is what's the level of host in a market? So I would get on Airbnb and go over to, I'll do that right now with you guys. And then what I do is I pull up that area on Airbnb, and then I'm looking at hosts on Airbnb, go into travel mode. Okay, so I'm going to just go right up here and put in Rainy Street, Austin. Don't hit anything with the calendar. Hit search, go over to filters, turn on entire home. I'm going to do apartments. And what I'm going to do is we're looking at 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And again, this is kind of where the legwork is. A 2-bedroom apartment has 3 beds, at least 3 beds, probably 4. So here's my formula. I'll get into this in module 3, which is one of the most important. Heads and beds, the quantity of heads and beds will optimize your listing more than almost anything. But here's what I do. You have to keep in mind that your neighbors, you can't fit in 20 people in an apartment. You'll lose your relationship with the building pretty quick. But with a 2-bedroom apartment, you at least have 1 king bed. King bed sells all day long. I made this mistake of having 2 king beds, but it doesn't matter. If you have 1 king bed on your listing, you'll get the SEO, you'll get the optimization and the clicks. And then in your second room, if it's big enough, 2 queen beds. Now you could fit king bed, and then 2 people in queen beds, usually kids and in-laws or something like that in there. And then your living room, we have a pull-out, or better yet, a sofa, a rollaway bed. So now you have 4 beds, but let's just say it's 3 beds. Let's be conservative. And a lot of our units, they are 3 because our second room isn't big enough for 2 queens. And sometimes we just don't want to do that because that can get awfully loud. But 4 beds is a lot for that. So then we have 2 bathrooms. Click on apartment and click show listings. Wow, 434 listings. So now we're in Rainy Street. Now, why am I doing this? Because Airbnb is elevating their very best listings in this area. So what you want to see is, what are the best performing Airbnbs in this market, in the short-term rentals. Now, I don't believe the entire market is Airbnb. They are the elephant in the room. They're the biggest player in it, but they are losing market share. Google Travel's coming after them. Even Booking.com is doing things that make their platform a bit better. Expedia certainly is, and even Vrbo. So, but Airbnb is a dominant player. So I look at Airbnb, their website's the best. And so I look to see what in their algorithm, it really is the best. They have an interest algorithm based on the interest that people express in certain units, and so they elevate the listings on it. So these are the top in a very, very popular market in one of the most popular cities in the country. These guys, the ones at the top, they're doing a lot here. These look like the same property too, same host. So they say these are condos. What I would then do is I jump on here. I do 4 things. First, I see if the host is professional or not. And the way you can check that is you click on their profile, double click on it, and then it goes right to the bottom of the page. You'll see how many listings they have. So if they have 1 listing and it's a side thing, they have a condo, okay, they're not pros. They probably don't have a VA, a virtual assistant, answering phones at night. I'm going to have one, so I'll probably beat them. The second thing I do is I judge their photos. Now, again, this isn't fact, but I want to see, are they using professional photos or not? I really can't tell by this. I like the photo arrangement. They're showing a dedicated area here that you can use as an eating area. Perhaps you can work here on a laptop. So that's actually very smart. They're really, really smart by showing their pool, which is a major amenity. In here, I would actually screen share and say heated on here. That's what I would do. They're showing a fantastic bedroom with the towels on it, nice clean white thing on here. I would probably use a different photo for the hero photo, for the main one, and I probably wouldn't show this on over here. I probably would show a hot tub or a gym in there, but that's just me. That it still doesn't mean these guys aren't really good. The second thing I would do here is go on their calendar and see if they're using dynamic pricing. And one of the ways, so it says $218, clear those dates. Now I'm going to go here and use one date. Ooh, they take 1 night stays. That's crazy. So they are. So their prices change based on the calendar. And then the last thing I'm going to do, probably not even going to do it, but yeah, I'll do it. So to see if they're using rule sets. A rule set is a condition that you give someone if they stay over a certain amount of time. Will you give them a discount? They're not using a length of stay discount. So that's just 1 unit. So this one would be a tough one to compete with. Let's look at the host. So Vacasa. Okay, I know Vacasa. They're a big company. Obviously, they're a player. If you click to the bottom, they have a gazillion. They have 100 listings. Okay, so these guys are a player, and it looks like they have a lot of listings. I could just tell really quickly by that sort of cement wall that they're players. They probably dominate in this market. That's what I'm doing. So what I'm looking for now, I don't like this market for that reason alone. I mean, you would have some serious competition here, and if you could do better, we could do as good as these guys. But I want to find an opening, a leverage. That's what this whole business is about. I want to find a market where there's some great properties, it's cash flowing well, it's legal, and yeah, sure, there are a handful of serious players, but the majority of the listings, 6 of the 12 2-bedroom apartments in this little area, are amateur hosts using iPhone photos. They're not using dynamic pricing or rule sets, and they maybe have 1 unit. They're not professionals. That's what I'm looking for. It doesn't mean I won't go into this property, but I'm going to go back to look at these guys. They're doing all the things that we do. They're putting text on images. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this guy right here. Look at this beautiful apartment and look how dark it is, right? That's a mistake, right? And these guys look like the same. Look at the ceilings on these. So they look like the same. Yeah, these are all the same building. It's probably a rental arbitrage guy. It says condo, but probably not. You can't condo in that many units in one building. You typically can't even Airbnb a condo because there's a 30-day minimum in most HOAs. So this is the apartment that I'm looking for. Look at that terrible title. He's a brand new host. I think Seth needs to get his game up. Double click on Seth here. Sorry. And look at it, he has 1 unit and it's a rental. So he's probably rental arbitraging this, and he's learning the hard way to do this incorrectly. First of all, his arrangement's really not that bad. His photos are awful. He took this from his iPhone because he's probably trying to do this on the cheap. He doesn't realize the damage he's doing to his interest algorithm. This is a very, very nice property. 700 a night is ridiculous. And so it's too much. I already know without even going to this market. So there's one. Now, if Seth was the majority of hosts like Seth, I would just say, hey, team, let's do this and let's go find a unit. And then the next step in this process is when we jump on Hotpads and do that. So basically, that's the formula for finding a good market is find out if it's legal. I showed you my strategy. We look for multifamily apartments that are in major areas or submarkets of major areas where there's work, business, and leisure travel. One of the steps I also show our students is I use ChatGPT instead of Google now to find out the complexity of an area, to find out if there is what kind of hospitals are in there. Are we near at least two hospitals, tier 1 or tier 2, big hospitals? Are we within 5 minutes of that? Are we near a military base, government buildings like FBI or whatever? It's because those government buildings, they have a lot of business coming and going. So people, contractors and so forth, are staying for periods at a time. And so if you're in a market like that, and there's a convention center, and there's a hospital, and then the hospital is attached to a great university, and the university has a big stadium, and then there's a lot of events that are happening when in off-peak times. And then there's a big draw, there's a big festival, and music is there, and it's a big music town. And there's a river or a mountain, or there's some kind of draw. And that's a market that's dynamic. And there's many of them, but a lot of those markets, rents are very high. So what we're trying to do is find where the rents are half of what the average gross monthly income is on Airbnb, and that's our formula. Okay, so that's my market analysis. That's how I pick markets and do the analysis using AirDNA, Rentometer to see if the market will cash flow. I hope that helps. And then in the next module, we'll be talking about acquisitions, what my formula is, and how I'm able to acquire properties. I've acquired 62 rental arbitrage properties since I started 4 years ago, and I'll share with you my exact process.